Happy New Year 2026. It is January 1st and the new year is off to a great start. I am headed out today to show a bunch of homes in Pine Ridge. I have a buyer that flew in last night, ready and actively looking. And I will spend the first day of the year doing what I love. One of the things I love doing the most, showing houses, helping people on to the next phase of their lives. So I'm excited about that. My newest listing in Pine Ridge has 3 showings lined up today, second day on the market. And Saturday I will be showing my beautiful horse farm in Pine Ridge 2 times. So it's very evident that there's a surge of activity that is hitting us here at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to talk to you about how we ended up for 2025 as far as our stats in the real estate market as a whole. And then just kind of encourage you as we are starting this new year to make the proper decisions on how to position yourself in this market. So without further ado, let's talk about the numbers. I'm going to go ahead and share with you my market stats report. As you can see here, not sure why there's a box here blocking us. Hopefully you can see this. This is my monthly market stats. So this I ran just this morning for month end December 31st. And the biggest takeaways when we look at this report are going to be that active listings are down. Active listings are down 5%. Now, in respect to that as well, buyer activity, so the homes that have sold in the last 180 days, are down 7%. So what's significant about that is we have less inventory, which is probably indicative of the holidays. I know there's some sellers that have taken their home off the market temporarily and things like that. So some of that is just the holiday momentum or emotions. And then the buyer activity, though, it is outpacing the slowdown of the active listings. So that means we have, still the same environment. Even though there's less competition, we have less buyers, and that is actually more significant than the lower competition. So it's really largely the same environment we've been talking about as far as the number of buyers, just the dynamic between time that you're going to be on the market and your price and how appealing. Sellers really have to be still thinking about that strategy. And we'll talk a little bit later about some of the best practices there. But we also had more expired listings. So all of those typical things that we are seeing in this market are continuing to be the case. Now, the positive for sellers is that our close price to original list price percentage was either stable or it went up slightly. So that means that we're getting a little bit better price. And I think as we start to see more buying activity, we will see that continue to improve. We had been, right at about low 90% list to sales ratio from original list price. And so, you're looking at 7 to 10% negotiations that you're having to make from the point that you list your house, as long as you list it reasonably within the market value, and then from the actual contract that you're going to get on the house. So one of the big hot topics right now is affordability, and it is a tough thing to make home ownership affordable, and also just homes in general, housing affordable, right? And so there's a lot of talk about, does it make sense to buy versus rent? And largely across the nation, renting is cheaper than the cost of buying if you just look at it on surface. But one of the things, I thought this chart was a really telling chart. So I wanted to share it because it shows you the differences in the wealth accumulation of homeowners from the basically the crash of the market in the Great Recession in 2006 through current. And then also for those that bought their houses later when the market had changed, how their trajectory looks. So if you look at this, it's really quite interesting because those of us, and I'm in this camp, who bought our house right at the peak of the market, right at the crash of the housing market. We are in the good now. It's wonderful. But compared to someone who bought in 2015 or 2019 or 2022, well, I guess really 15 is the one, is they're in the better position, right? They made the better return over the shorter period of time. But all that being said, you can see that wealth is accumulated no matter what point in time during that period you purchased your property. You've gained equity in that property, and so that's a very significant thing. And then you look at the renters down here, this dashed line, these dashed lines, and that's the amount of money that they've had to spend, their financial loss renting, compared to if they bought, right? So we know over time you're building wealth. I think it's a neat forced savings plan when you buy a home, and later on in life you can see that financial gain when you sell that home, and move on to whatever the next phase of your life is. And it does make some different opportunities available that wouldn't be there otherwise. So I think that's really a cool thing. The other thing I wanted to just talk about is the strategy. If you're on the market right now as a seller, we talk about the importance of repositioning your property on the market so that it's in the right placement with the competition, and the biggest tool to do that is going to be price improvements. So we're seeing a lot of price reductions. This is why I'm telling you now about the original list price to close price ratio instead of just the typical list to sales ratio, because sellers are reducing their price in order to capture the buyer and get to the closing table. So this was interesting from National Association of Home Builders. They're reporting that 41% of builders have reported cutting prices in November of this year. Now, that's really significant because builders tend to be less negotiable on the price of their homes because the price is based upon the price that it costs to build the house, right? And so they tend to be less negotiable about that. But what we have right now is builders have too many homes sitting. They need to, liquidate homes, and they're taking losses if they have to in order to keep things moving so they can keep cash flow and continue with projects that they have going on. And then we see a lot of sales incentives. So 65% used sales incentives to capture buyers to buy their houses. So for resale properties, this is competition you need to be aware of. There's a lot of it out there. And if you're buying, just understand that you have the opportunity to get some really great values from new homes. Now the trade-off is the resales tend to have a lot of neat upgrades and extra features that you wouldn't be getting in the new homes. So you have to decide what's most important to you. And I think that's just something to be mindful of and keep in perspective. So we will come back here and wrap things up. I think those are the biggest highlights for the 2025 recap. And, I just want people to understand that we are seeing right now an increase in buyer activity, momentum, enthusiasm, and I think we're going to continue to see that increase. So if you are selling your house, if you are thinking about selling your house, the time is right to be on the market. So try not to talk yourself out of it. If this insurgence of buyers continues to happen and gets stronger, you want to be out there for those buyers to see your home and be able to purchase it. So if you're waiting on the sidelines, if you took a break over the holidays, it's time. And I do expect we're going to see some really positive things in this new year. One of the tips I have for you with listing your house right now in this environment is I think it can be really helpful to discuss a pricing strategy up front with your real estate agent. And what that looks like is you determine what timing. So here's where we're coming to market, and then within a certain amount of time, we're going to reduce the price to this, and then, future price improvements, as I call them, that are set in your agreement with your agent, so that it doesn't have to be an emotional decision or a decision that could be delayed because of unexpected things that happen in life. It's a decision that's already made up front. I think those types of decisions can be beneficial to be made before you're in the crux of all of it, right? And so I definitely recommend considering that type of strategy in this type of market. So we've got some great guides to help you navigate whether you're a buyer or a seller going into this new year, and really positioning yourself for success in the real estate market. So if you're interested in taking a look at those guides, we'd be happy to share them. Just text guide to 352 476 3303, and I will be sure to get that over to you. So I just wish everyone a wonderful 2026, excited about the new year, and if there's anything at all we can be doing for you, you know we're here to help you. I'm Ruth Squires, and my team is RES Luxury Group, and we bring you white glove service and red carpet treatment because your satisfaction in this new year is our guarantee, as always. Take care.